Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Business of Property. And I'd like to invite Tony Meredith to the stage. Where are you, Tony? Share broadcast. Try sharing your broadcast. Here we are. I'm going to invite Tony to the stage here and see how we're going. There you are. Hi, Dad. How are you doing too? Dad. It's a bit of a wet day in Sydney. I've got earphones tuned in as well. Here we go. G'day. Hi, Tony. How are you?
Great. How are you going?
I'm really well. Are you getting some rain up in Brisbane as well?
We have had some rain, which has been great.
Fabulous. Yeah, we really need some rain.
We do. Hey, can I say?
I hope it's getting out to
all the people that need it. I couldn't agree more, Cheryl. So yes, we need things to settle down. It's been a very dry winter. Hey, I just want to say your hair looks amazing. And not only does your hair look amazing.
Thank you.
That's okay. Not only does your hair look amazing, what an amazing job in raising all the money for people who need it most. Hey, so well done.
Thank
well
you.
Done.
Thank you, and I want to say thank you to you and all the people in the community that have supported the cause. I've been absolutely overwhelmed by all the support. I still have some people going, we would have brought it up to the $5,000 and have you shave off your head, and I said, oh well, I've paid for my haircut now. So
is it too late, Cheryl? Are you putting that out here to Australia, to the world?
I'm not putting it out there as yet.
No, you're not instilling me with confidence with that response. So that's a no for now.
Well, you see, no for now. I think my husband's still getting used to the short hair as well. I'm not quite sure if he's ready to be waking up next to a little monk either. So hi Dad, hi Ian, welcome to the stage today, or our little stage. And I see that you were checking in on your site in Caboolture yesterday as well.
I was up there yesterday seeing how the guys are going. So about 2 weeks to go, and then civil construction's all done, which will be great. So then we can get on with getting some drawings done, some works drawings done. Then we can get on with our planned ceiling, and then here's hoping in a couple of months from now we've got some titles and we're ready to sell some stuff. So yeah.
Fantastic. Excellent. That's great. It's always good to see progress on site, a bit of dust being moved around.
There's plenty of dust in Queensland at the moment. So in fact, it was quite eerie driving up there. It's about an hour north of Brisbane, and you can still see the smoke haze, on the horizon from all the fires from last week. So we desperately need the rain to settle things down. So which is great. But yes, it's great to see progress, and the boys on the side are moving forward. So looking forward to them finishing in a couple of weeks, and then getting those drawings finalised, and then in for planned ceiling, and then titles. So busily trying to sell some stuff at the moment. So there's 3 lots. We're creating 5 lots, but 3 of them I'm trying to sell as land. So a great dual key opportunity. I know this isn't supposed to be a sales plug, but I thought I'd slide one in. So if someone's interested, reach out, let me know. But no, all good.
Caboolture's the place to be.
Yes,
that's excellent, Tony. I wanted to give a little bit of a rundown. On the weekend, I don't know if you were aware, it was Sustainable House Day.
No, I didn't
over
know
the weekend, all across Australia.
Wow.
And it's something, I don't know how long it's been running, but it is a fairly recent sort of national event where you've got all these open houses for all these sustainably sort of eco-friendly type homes across Australia. And the one that I attended to in New South Wales was one in Narara Eco Village. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that as well. We've got an eco village up in Narara, which is up near the Central Coast. It's one suburb away from Gosford, and some people probably don't even realise that it's there. And there's some really great things. As you know, I'm very big on the sustainability and sort of building more environmentally friendly. Our house, and this is the irony, and our house that I'm living in now, we've been in it for a year. We won a Master Builders Award last week. our house got chosen.
Oh, fantastic! Well done.
The builders, which is nice. I mean, that's not the reason why we built the house, but one of the things, you know, we have always, my husband and I have always been very set on one day building our, you know, our 8, 9, 10-star energy rated home. And unfortunately, you know, not unfortunately, but circumstances, this wasn't that home. However, we tried as much as we could to be able to implement as many sort of environmentally friendly sort of or energy saving type elements as we could. And so it was really nice. And we went with a builder called Hall and Hart, and they were fairly new in the industry at the time. We took a little bit of a leap of faith with them, but they delivered beautifully, and we were very lucky that when they completed, they invited us and said, you know, would you like to submit your house? And we think it's great. The design's wonderful. It's got this, and this. And we said, oh yeah, that's all right. And then they announced it last week that we won, and we were like, oh, what does that mean?
That's awesome.
They sort of go, well, we'll give you a plaque to say you won, and this is how much you spent.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so that was sort
cool.
of a bit of a buzz, and we did say to them, I said the next house that we build, we would love to build with them if they could make it sort of an 8-star plus energy rated home.
You put out the challenge, right? So you've laid down the challenge to them, which is great.
Yeah, yeah, we have, and because and this is the thing, you know, sustainability has been such a thing that's really grown over the last, you know, definitely the last decade, and that's why they've got this like this event, like the Sustainable House Day. And I was going back to Narara Eco Village, and it's so interesting. And I don't know if you've seen before, you know, hemp is very much HEMP, hemp, as opposed to the stuff that you smoke, the stuff that, and opposed to the stuff that you eat. It's such a versatile
material.
I was gonna say material. But it's a food as well. You know, and it's such a good product for construction. You know, they're using hempcrete. So Brendan, hi, how are you? Brendan is the director of and founder of a sustainable community up in Victoria called the Cape, and I'm a huge fan of what Brendan does. And he's got, you know, in that development there are 7-star plus houses. I think there's a 10-star plus development there as well. And you know, what I'd like to be able in this community is to be able to have our you know, our community and our developers think about how can we improve the energy ratings of our of our buildings, of what we're building, because it means also when we look at all these sort of elements that are happening in the world, and just in Australia itself, we've got a drought happening, we've got really odd weather happening, whether people sort of believe in whether there's climate change or not. There have been changes in our in our climate. And what does that mean in terms of our building? We're building these big houses which are not necessarily energy efficient, but we're using so much power. We're generating so much power. We're needing so much to heat our homes, to cool our homes, and it's, you know, electricity is not getting any cheaper. And so I'd like to be able to, you know, as part of this, and I'm not going to be standing on my soapbox or anything else, but it's more so about encouraging our community to think, you know, look at all the technology and the materials and different sort of building methods to build, you know, a little bit differently, a little bit sort of friendly, and think about how much we can save in terms of energy for people who are living in the houses that we're developing. So it was really great. I mean, I really encourage anyone next year, look out for Sustainable House Day. I put up a few photos of some of the homes that I visited. I visited some of the friends that I know that live in the eco village and their homes, and they were so comfortable.
Fantastic.
Like really sort of, they felt warm and comfortable. So that's my little story.
Great. No, very good. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. And it's always great to have different points of view as well. I think you know, the balance with the whole sustainable piece is that from a developing point of view, it's about, you know, making money, and does the increase that you're going to put into the home, then purely from a bottom line point of view, does that can the market sustain that? So these are arguments that we're not going to solve here tonight, but it's more you've got that balance of I hear what you're saying and obviously doing the right thing by the environment and etc. But then it's also the balance of how do we people are still trying to make money in all of this, and has the market shifted to take up all these other things which may add a whole lot more cost into your development.
Yeah,
like solar, for example,
that
solar, or all these types of things which are going to add costs onto your development, and does that then is the market ready to purchase those sorts of things? So look, it takes leadership. It takes you touched on leaps of faith and those types of things to do it. So it's possible, it can be done, and I applaud you for doing it. I'm suggesting that there's a whole lot more dialogue and discussion that needs to happen, certainly from my perspective anyway, in order to shift things a whole lot more further forward.
Yeah, and this is something where, Brendan, if you're still listening in, I'd love to be able to have this conversation and an interview, because it is the one thing that I know as developers, we're all about, all right, well, we'd love to, and I've had this conversation many times, we'd love to have more sustainability and however, we'd love to include these sort of elements, but we have found it that it doesn't quite give us the returns that we're wanting. And, a big push in where I'm heading towards is about being able to balance that social, environmental, and profit as well. It is possible, especially as it becomes a lot more mainstream. Costs are definitely reduced, but it's also it's more so the ongoing costs as well. And, from Brendan's development, we're seeing that homeowners are getting money back.
Great.
Because they're generating.
Great. That's excellent.
All these, so I think that's this, I said, it's another conversation for another day. But I just want to sort of share.
I love it. I think it's great to share. It reminds me a lot of healthy eating many years ago, where people were very resistant to eating healthy because it costs a whole lot more money, right? And so it's about getting. I don't know if you experienced that through others around you, or you read about it, but people are really reluctant to get into the healthy eating, even though we know that by eating healthy, it's got a whole lot of physical and mental benefits, but they were resistant because of purely based on price. So anyway, for those who tuned in, no, this is not the environmental and food hour. This is the business of property. Hey, Cheryl, is there anyone got any comments? Any?
Yes. Well, I want to sort of say hi to a few people that have come on. Brenton, how are you doing, Brendan? As well, that's here. I've got a few more people. Any sort of questions? We before we delve into the topic for today, Sanjay, how are you doing today? Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Well, we had a topic today because I had someone in the community, Scott, who asked a question, and I put out a post yesterday about if anyone needed some help or input from the community, and he asked about investors and how to have investors interested in your developments and things like that. And this is something that we come across, for a lot of us in the community, that we're constantly asking for. If you see, and I have to excuse me, I have a feeling that I have a child that's found me. Oh no, the door's shut.
Okay.
And anyone that's posting up about funding, I constantly see a whole lot of response. There's a lot of money out there at the moment, a lot of private investors. I think it's important to, and this is sort of an area that I'm familiar with, but the disclaimer is always get legal advice.
Your own advice, seek independent advice, correct? Everyone's situation is different.
Seek independent advice, get legal advice, but ensure you have people who understand property and development and the legalities around licensing. If you are going to take this on as a business, if you are intending to raise money there are legalities around this. But before I delve into all that stuff, like Tony, what's been your experience
that's all the boring.
in
Again,
terms
we
of,
got all the boring stuff out of the way.
yeah,
So what I'd suggest, so Scott
yeah.
is in our program, in the Property Development Formula program with
Sure.
Rob and I. And one of the challenges that new people find is that, you know, why would someone back me? You know, I've never done this before. Why would someone back me? Why would they bet on me? It's difficult to get out of the starting gate. So for people who are a bit more experienced, you've got some runs on the board, there's testimonials, you've got a proven track record, so on and so forth. It makes it a bit easier from an investor's point of view to go, yeah, you know what, this person has done, you know, 1, 2, or 3 projects, and as a result, I'm prepared to help them out. So the challenge is going to be that, you know, what for me. Now, here's the one way you can get around that is find people who already back you regardless of what you do. Where do you find them? In your phone. That's supposed to be a phone, by the way. But in your phone. So you find people in your, that'll do because I'm talking to my phone, but you find them in your phone. You know, so you've got people who know you, like you, and trust you already. Go through your phone, friends, family. Start to talk about the things that you're up to. See what the response is. Hey, how'd you spend your weekend? Well, I spent it going to a property meetup, or spent Tuesday night watching this amazing lady and this terrific fellow talk about property, you know, etc. See what the response is. If they lean into that and go, yeah, tell me a bit more about that, right? You can start to open up, start to divulge more. Conversely, if they go, yeah, whatever, you know, boring, you know, property's in a slump or whatever, then don't push it any further. Use your own intuition, use your own judgment as to how far you push. But the very first bit of advice I'd say is look in your existing contacts, those who already know, like, and trust you, and are there some potential opportunities there? And it comes down to, you know, just asking those questions, just starting to talk about a particular topic and seeing if there's any interest from those closest to you.
Sure. And I guess it's also, you know, if particularly if you're starting, and this is the concern for, I would say, most people, if it's their first first project that they're looking to get investors in, or from the investor point, and I'll come from the investor point. One is, you know, is always going to be the concern: do they know what they're doing?
Yeah, I get it.
Because will I lose money? And you know, what are the ways to bring about first that trust and that sort of reassurance to investors? And often it is, you know, if you've shown a track record of successful developments, then obviously that's going to bring a lot more credibility and trust. So how do you, in that situation, and without going into too much of the program?
Oh, no, I'm happy to share plenty of stuff about it.
That's right. So that's I appreciate that. And how do you sort of, for your students that are there, sort of work around having investors be on board and still be part of, you know, the legal, making sure that legal sort of framework is there as well?
Of course. So get the right team around you. So that's the other one. So you are where you are. If you are new, you are new, right? You can't go and BS people. You can't go and change that. You're new. You're looking to get out of the starting gate. But what about having the team around you? A great team, your A team, the likes of, you know, fantastic town planner, fantastic civil engineer, fantastic solicitor, fantastic accountant. Get all those key personnel around you that can help bolster up your team. So then when you're talking to investors, you're not just talking about you as an individual, you're talking about this collective of people that are going to get through this particular development and return the investor with their principal and the interest as well. Because that's the ultimate objective of an investor, is to get their money back that they gave, plus the interest that they're entitled to. So my advice there is to bolster yourself by surrounding yourself with those highly qualified people who are going to help you progress through the project. Also, you may have some skills that you've brought in that are non-property development skills that could also apply. So, for example, you might in your day job be a project manager of something. You may have a little project that you've got to manage, or you might manage people in your day job. Hey, they're fantastic skills that are transferable that you can bring into your world or your property development world.
Agree. I think being even sort of a parent is a property management role on a daily basis.
Oh God! Please don't go down this path, Cheryl. Not tonight.
But you know what I mean, right?
Oh, I know what you mean.
Like you said,
I know what you mean.
Bring in your daily, and I think there is a lot of weight and also creating. I mean, look at it, and we talk about the business of property. Like, if this is something where you go, I'm looking at bringing investors on board on a small scale or whatever it might be. You want to give them that confidence, and I think there's a lot of weight in creating that business around it. Look at it as a business, because if you're dealing with investors' money, that's a serious thing, because you don't want to be, definitely, and create like a profile, create a website around what it is that you're doing, even if it's your first. I think there's a lot of weight in that, because it just brings more comfort around, all right, this is you. These are, like you said, you've got their team around you, links to who your team are. And it's very inexpensive to put a website together. And linking to your key consultants and service providers, provide updates on your Facebook page, provide updates there. I mean, social media and technology are so readily available for us to be able to do that. And from my experience with dealing with investors, it is all about keeping them up to date. They just want to know where things are at. They want to be involved in some way or form, to be able to give some feedback if you have.
Yeah, of course. But even, that's right. But for that, right? So again, you're starting out, so you're not in your first deal yet. But before that, you want to, like you said, create a website, but just grab your phone and do all sorts of videos and video yourself. Here I am. I'm putting letters in the letterbox to mail to potential vendors. I'm working hard, etc., etc. What is it? Reverse engineer is the two key words for me. Reverse engineer. What is it that the investor is looking for in order to hand money over? So ask yourself, what would I want to see from someone, who I was potentially being asked to hand money over to? Come up with a list of those things. What are they? What are those 5 or 10 things that you would like to see? Right, and then go about answering those. So one is around, integrity and trust. Well, the wonderful thing is that you can record yourself for months and months and months, record your activity, post it on Facebook, do it on YouTube, put it on a website, whatever it is. Here I am, I'm out here dealing with agents, getting closer to my first deal. Here I am, I've gone and organised my entity and blah, blah. Just record the whole lot. I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk's, and he talks about document, don't create. So many people try and put a little creative spin on it. Just grab your phone and just record yourself doing whatever that thing is that you're doing. Don't think about it. Just go, here's what I'm doing. Put that somewhere. Now, you might be in a job and say, oh, maybe I don't want to do that from my employer point of view. Well, that's fine. We'll get on YouTube. Maybe you create a private page, but when someone asks about it, you say, well, here's the access to my private page. And so that way then you're still able to record things. You record yourself going to a meetup. You record yourself surrounding yourself with various property people. Let people know that you're taking this seriously. Again, this is because this is your very first deal. So you've got to somehow get yourself out of the blocks. The other thing that you can do is ask more people, right? So if you haven't found someone to say yes yet, the key word is yet, ask more people, right? So how do you find more people? When you meet new people, you start again. So you don't go and say, hey, I want money. But you start to have conversations. What is it that you do? Well, this is what I do. I'm a property developer. And this all then, to me, comes back to the B word, which is belief. That is, if you starting out don't believe in yourself, then why would I believe in you to hand over my hard-earned money? Does that make sense? So you need to be able to believe in yourself. So when you meet someone for the first time, you say to them, g'day, my name's Tony, and I'm a property developer. And see what happens. See what people, see if people are interested in it. And again, have those conversations around it.
Yeah. Being able to have investors, definitely, when you're talking about how you're presenting yourself, is huge. It's a huge part of that, because it's when you're explaining your project or and people can see, hi, Scott's just joined us. Scott, we're actually discussing
we're talking about you, Scott.
The question that you had.
Yeah, great.
We're talking about you. All good things. Nathan, how are you doing? Because people want to be able to see that you're confident in what you're doing. And it's so that part of belief and your own personal self. I think that's definitely something that can be developed from a structure side of things. And this is another thing when you're speaking to investors and putting together whether it's a unit trust or a company structure. Again, get some advice around
disclaimer.
What the best structure is. Is because everyone's going to want things done differently. So it's really important that your accountant sets up a structure that suits what you're needing. And have things in place where it gives the investor comfort around, whether it's getting 2 signatures on everything that's being signed off, or not paying out expenses until the investors have signed it off and said, yeah, that looks okay, and everything else, get a QS and things like that. So, there's there's accountability there. There's oversight about what you're doing, but it also gives you a sense of, if this is if it's someone's first project, that you're not necessarily doing it alone, because there's someone else there,
of course,
that's going to be, like I said, your accountability sort of partner there. They're a partner in this as much as you are. So treat them as a partner. They might be your financial partner, but you've got to make decisions with a partner. And the experience that they have and that comes out of this is going to really hugely impact how you manage your sort of subsequent projects as well. So definitely get all the legalities, structure and everything right from the very beginning, and ensure you've got a process of oversight and disclosure and, like I said, risk management in place.
100%. And again, it comes back to reverse engineer it. If someone came up to you with a whole lot of information scrawled onto the back of a coaster, would you hand over several $100,000? The answer is no, you wouldn't, right? And so it's all about creating first impressions count. So create that professional image, do a professional information memorandum, all those types of things. Like you said, not just the good stuff, but also consider the risks as well and be open with them. Based on my assessment, here's a couple of risks that I believe could potentially happen. However, here's our solutions should it get to that. Something along those lines, so that you're saying you're being transparent and saying, well, hey, I'm aware that this might happen, but don't worry, because here's my risk mitigation strategy. So take that professional look, dress professionally. Little things like these are one percenters, but these 1%ers all add up. So again, if you just sort of come in looking a bit sloppy, then that's not going to impress someone or give someone confidence who you're asking several $100,000 from potentially. So that's another way. Another way is just get out there and find an amazing deal. So find an amazing deal that's got plenty of profit in it, and I don't think you're going to have a problem finding money partners somehow. You're going to find an amazing deal that's got a really strong bottom line, and I suspect that people will be finding you. But again, that comes down to you've got to believe that you can do those things as well. And as people would know by watching me now, they know that mindset's a huge part of what I do. And I didn't want to make this about mindset tonight, but belief. You have to believe in what you're doing, because that then comes out. You then portray that to those who you're potentially asking money from. And if you show belief that you can find a great deal, if you show belief that you're competent, you're confident, again, if you haven't done a deal, you haven't done a deal. Let's not BS that, but it's about saying, well, that's true, but what I've gone and done to complement that is I've got these amazing people around me. I've got this very professional information memorandum. I found an amazing deal that's going to deliver us, 25% profit on cost, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, you're starting to come across with a very persuasive argument.
And again, I point out the value of having mentors around you to be able to guide you. If it's your first project, you know, for the comfort of not just yourself, but of your investors, that you say, you know, I've got a mentor and a coach or whichever. They're very experienced. They're having me, they're overlooking sort of what I'm doing. I've run things past them, done the numbers and things like that. So they're guiding me along the way. So I think, you know, if it is your first deal, have mentors in place. You know, it's important, especially particularly if you are having to deal with other people's money. I mean, have your money in there. I think there's again, we talk about our deals having someone having skin in the game. You know, what the developer having skin in the game, because you know it's different when you don't have skin in the game and when you do. You definitely, whether some people sort of believe it or not, there's a bit more of that sort of, you're tied. You definitely got some sort of tie to it, and it makes the investors feel that if all goes to poop, that the developer's not just going to pack up and go. Well, if they've got a little bit of skin in the game, some skin in the game, they're definitely vested in it as well. So there are arguments either way. I know some people are okay with no skin in the game, and it just really depends on how the investors feel about that as well.
I think the other thing too, so I agree with your point on skin in the game, but the other point is that it all comes down to you know, personal branding, personal reputation as well. I know that because potentially little comfort for someone who's gone and lost some money, but it's a pretty small world, and if someone's going to do the wrong thing, well, that may impact that deal, but that could then haunt them, you know, for a long period of time also. But I do agree that yes, definitely, you know, from an investor's point of view, having the developer putting some cash up means that there's a shared gain, but there's a shared risk as well. So yeah. Is there any questions there, Cheryl, coming through?
Oh, what? I
don't know.
just want to say hi, Adrian. Let me see. Any questions so far that we've brought up? And again, I talk about looking at, you know, while I wait for the people to type in questions, look at whether, you know, if it's your first deal, and be aware there is a requirement for licensing. If you are raising capital from investors and you are looking at doing this on an ongoing basis, and it's going to be something that you're going to do year in and year out for all your projects, definitely get advice around whether you need to be licensed to hold an Australian financial services license.
But is that Cheryl, just to be clear, so is that if you're getting one investor into your project, whether it be as a money partner or a JV partner, do the people need to get a Australian financial services license for that?
There is a small, the word says small cap offering. There is an exemption for small cap offerings. I said, get advice around it, because there is a 2-12-20, and I get the numbers mixed up, 2-12-20. So $2 million within 12 months and no more than 20 investors. There's no real need for a license or a disclosure document. So disclosure documents like an investment memorandum of prospectus or whichever. There is an exemption there for small scale offerings. However, that small scale offering, those numbers can be spread across numerous deals, not just one. That can be numerous deals, and ASIC will look at counting the different projects you have and whether that falls within that. I will say it is a little bit of a gray area, because there are different ways of interpreting things by different lawyers. But so it's important in terms of whether if you're doing 1 or 2 projects and they're fairly sort of small, and your investors have a good amount of involvement in them, then you're sort of fairly safe from a licensing point of view. I mean, ASIC, I'll disclose as well, I used to work for ASIC in the please don't hurt me. I used to work for ASIC in compliance many moons ago, financial services compliance, however not in the property space.
Sure.
But they do, I mean, they are like a dog to a bone. If
Mm.
they find a developer who they feel that has breached the Corporations Act, they will shut down everything. They will shut down everything, and they don't care whether the numbers look great or whatever. And I've seen this in many instances where they've regarded a scheme, a syndicate, or whichever as breaching the Corporations Act. So, I mean, if you're dealing with smaller projects and you're only doing 1 or 2 a year, and you've got really good mates that are part of that, you're fairly safe. Like ASIC's not going to really spend its time. They're looking for larger deals. In saying that, if you're constantly doing it, then and you are advertising outside of your inner circle. So that's the other thing as well. You're not meant to be advertising. Then you're really bordering on the verge of, well, do I need to be licensed? And at the end of the day, if you're talking to people that you are outside of your personal circle and personal business associates, it gives people the level of comfort around, yeah, you are licensed. You are having to adhere to certain the regulations and
guidelines,
things like that,
etc.
and disclosures. I mean, there's trustees involved, there's custodians, people, so there's quite a bit involved in being licensed, and there's quite a bit of cost behind it. So that's why there is this sort of small cap offering exemption. But if you're anyone here that's looking to do more than just their sort of 1 or 2 developments throughout the year and with mates, and looking to be able to advertise it to a wider crowd, get some advice around and get yourself familiar. Like, start looking up, what are the requirements around investors and
have you got a link that you could put in the show notes?
I could definitely do that. And there are a few, not all the lawyers, not every solicitor knows and is familiar with this. So there are certain lawyers that deal specifically with financial services licensing and property development. So make sure you're talking to the right people around that. So like I said, investors are it's an area that you don't want to get wrong.
No, I understand.
And it's not something that you don't want anyone here to have ASIC knocking on their door, because I was there before. I've seen what it's like. We used to turn up at a financial planner's doorstep. They knew we were coming, but once they find something that looks a little bit sort of
suspect,
not 100% by the books, not necessarily meaning that they've done anything wrong, but it's not 100% by the books, they will clamp down and can make things difficult. Not forgetting, we've just had a royal commission earlier in the year, and that caused a whole lot of uproar. They are targeting developers. They are targeting, and they're wanting to ensure, because we've had lots of instances where investors have lost money with developers. And it's I like to think that everyone in this community does the right thing, and I'd hate to sit to hear of ASIC knocking on anyone's doors and shutting down their projects. So like I said, it's ensuring that anyone that's looking to raise funds to just be aware of what's around them, what their legal sort of requirements are out there. And if you're within the exemption, that's fantastic. If you're not really quite sure, get some advice or speak to someone else, like a mentor or whichever, that's a bit more familiar with the regulations around that. But make sure that you are doing the right sort of thing by your investors.
Sure.
And I'm sure, we're all doing that.
Cheryl, you touched on advertising. So how does that apply for advertising within the Facebook group? So within your page, for example, or your group, people might be asking for, 500K here or 250K there. How does that apply?
Yes. So similarly, your ASICs, the exemption only applies to people that you know. So the exemption only applies to your immediate sort of friends and family and business associates that you know personally, and it actually doesn't allow you to advertise.
Right.
So Yes. It is something that not a lot of people know, because we've been doing this, property developers have been doing this for donkey's years, right? We've been getting friends and families and advertising, and it happens, and a lot of people are in the community and in the industry that are not doing it the right way. I don't want to be the party pooper here, but like I said, I've worked with ASIC, and I know I've worked in compliance, so I'm hugely aware of what they can do and how what the regulations are.
Sure.
I do know that there is a bit of a grey area in it, and so it is where if you are looking at making this a business, if we're looking at the business of property and building a business around it, look at we're currently talking about developers, partnering with developers, but making sure that there's an investment manager involved who has a license.
Sure.
So the developer doesn't necessarily have to have the license to raise capital, but they might want to work with an investment manager who does, and that investment manager raises the funds for the project, but manages investors' funds. So there are ways to work with it.
Sure.
In a legal way. You just need to make sure that you are aware of the regulations that cover this space, because it is one that not a lot of and I think it is important that we know we probably have someone in the space, a lawyer, financial services lawyer in this space that can sort of answer some of these questions. I think
It'd be a fascinating interview, Cheryl. So,
yes.
But the good thing in your community is that everybody knows each other in this Facebook group. So we're all friends, one big happy family. So that then we're okay, right? We comply.
We comply. I like to think so, that everyone's doing things in compliance. I used to have a joke that we'd have a mug that said "comply or die."
Right.
Not that I killed anyone.
Right. Okay. That's company. Now, any questions, any comments, Cheryl, come through?
No, we've got hi Adrian, hi Corn. How are you doing? I hope the kids are going to bed. Not at the moment. It is something that we're going a bit quiet tonight.
So what about back on the topic around how we can help people from a finance point of view get finance? So we've talked about creating websites. We've talked about getting your A team. We've talked about having self-belief. Believing in yourself. We've talked about picking up your phone and going to those people that already have a relationship with you, that know you, that like you, that trust you. So there's a whole range of ways that you can do it. And what I would say to people, and again, it comes back to, thoughts become things. If you sit there and say to yourself, and in fact, I came across this in a few coaching sessions today and yesterday, if you say, I can't find money anywhere, and you keep saying to yourself, I can't find money, well, guess what? You're not going to be able to find it. So when you flip that around and say, well, it's out there, I haven't worked hard enough yet. I haven't knocked on enough doors yet. I haven't asked enough people yet, but it's out there. It's waiting for me. I just need to push that little bit further. And it's all about how we change things up. But if you sit there and keep saying to yourself, I can't find it, it's nowhere, it's impossible. Be careful what you say to yourself, because your mind's listening, and thoughts become things, and that whole negativity and pessimism becomes a thing called not finding any money.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important as well, when you're approaching investors, is to address their needs.
100%.
You don't want to come across that you are desperate for money because you need it. It's also it's more important, like investors at the end of the day, what they want to know, this is marketing 101, right? Is how are you solving their problem? And their problem might be, well, I like to be able to build a portfolio of residual income, whichever, or I'd like to be able to invest in property development. Understand and sort of really understand what their investors' needs are, and talk to that to begin with. And it usually is, they're looking at the returns because they sort of go, oh, what's in it for me? The question is, what is in it for me?
Well, that's part
And
of
it
the building
comes to,
rapport, right? So it's part of building rapport,
mm,
having conversations with people again, building those know, like, and trust relationships where you're getting to know people. After all, we're talking about a significant financial exchange here. It could be 100, 200, $500,000. These things don't just happen by accident. So you need to be able to, build rapport with people. And again, if someone's going to be handing you money, you want to spend the time, A, getting to know them, but B, getting to know, as you're rightfully saying, Cheryl, what is it that they want? What is it that they're looking for out of this particular relationship, partnership, etc.
yeah, and definitely it all comes down, for most investors, it is the numbers.
No,
So be
okay.
clear on what your numbers are. If you're putting together a disclosure document of some sort, whether it's an generally it's an information memorandum, have, set out what your feasibility is, set out what an investor, and know, again, disclaimer, that's a target. It's a target that you're working towards, a feasibility is your very best sort of guesstimate of all the costs that are involved. But this, give investors an idea of what they can be expecting, and make sure you present that on an annual, as an annual figure. So I often see people saying, all right, it's going to be a 25% return, but it's not clear as to whether it's 25% over the course of the project.
Yeah, annualized 3 years, 6 months, whatever. Yeah.
How long's the project going to take? How long's the money going to be there? Is it going to 1, 2, or 3? Because if it's 25% over 3 years, that's not a really good return. Because if you divide that by 3, so it needs to be presented in and we talk about internal rate of return. So, you work it out what the per annum sort of rate is. And, is that 12% per annum or whichever? So, be aware that there are ways to, you need to be able to present your numbers as well, reflective of a per annum rate, so people understand that, and then they don't find that misleading either. And it's clear, like it needs to be transparent and clear.
Sure, but is it just the numbers, Cheryl? So I get the whole numbers piece, but people could potentially inflate numbers, right? So is it just the numbers? To me, it would also be the ways in which I'm going to get my money back, right? So for me, if I was going to hand some money over, I would want to see what's your exit strategies to return me my money and some, obviously with the interest or whatever. So I'm not saying numbers aren't important. Of course they're important, but to me it's also increasing that level of certainty that I'm actually going to get to see my money again along with my interest.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely agree on that. And then what I've realized particularly in the last sort of year or two is have an exit strategy in place. Really work out what your exit strategy is, and
strategies, plural. I would say it's plural.
Yeah, strategy. Correct. So whether it's, if you're building to sell, are you sure that you've got a strong flow of purchases that are going to be at the end? Is the demand high enough to be able to fulfill those sales? If you are, or do you reach out to certain project builders who will do put and call options? If you're talking about house and land packages, for example, or house and land, can you get? And there are project home builders out there that are doing that. They will take put and calls over a large portion of a development. Could you, if you're doing a build to rent? Are you able to rent a significant amount of them, or whether it's significant or not, a portion of it to a business, a local business, whether it's or the hospital or whichever that might be. So, absolutely agree. It's what is the exit strategy, and we've got to realize now that in this particular market, we talked about marketing before, that it's not a particularly strong. Depending on where you are, it's not a strong pre-sales market. Pre-sales aren't necessarily there now for a large portion of, depending on where you are in Australia. And we've really struggled in it, mainly in the major cities. So you're finding a lot of developers who are getting funding and going straight into building without pre-sales, because it is more an owner-occupier market in the current climate. And owner-occupiers, and I said, depending on where where your stock is and everything else, owner-occupiers typically like to see what they're buying. We almost forget that there were times when there was no such thing as pre-sales. We didn't do pre-sales for ages, until there was this huge demand for people to sort of go, hey, I want to get in before the rest of the crowd does. But you know what? When they did pre-sales, there was a discount. So when we're actually building without pre-sales, and catering towards an owner-occupier market, we have to remember we're not giving that discount that we were before. So we've got to make sure that our prices reflect that. But then it's also ensuring that we've got to have that exit strategy in place at the end, and feel confident that once it's completed, that stock is going to be absorbed up.
Absolutely. No, very good. Good advice, Cheryl. Any other questions coming through?
How are you, Jeff? So Jeff's from in Victoria. Jeff is an agent that is quite a superstar here. So and I know he does a bit of sales down in near the Mornington Peninsula. Sea Change Real Estate. So we've spoken about sort of the market, what's happening there. No particular questions. Where are the questions today about whether it's in investors, whether it's about what we're talking about in the market as well? Are you seeing some change in the market? I'm interested to know what your sense of the Brisbane market is, Tony.
Sure. So me personally, so I'm still trying to sell a few things. So I'm one of those developers who's gone and built some homes, and they're sitting there collecting a bit of dust. So it would be helpful for me if they were to sell. I tell you what, I am seeing a change in. So I've been having a chat to a few different financial institutions in the last few weeks, and I'm just sensing personally just a little bit of the door starting to open ever so slightly. Hasn't swung wide open, so I don't want people to go and think that it's back to where it was 12 or so months ago. But I'm just starting to see the language change a little bit. And, some of the financial institutions are now open to having some conversations, whereas, you go back sort of a little while and they were very closed and it wasn't happening. But, they too are businesses, and they need to deliver shareholder returns. And when they aren't, generating revenue, then all of a sudden that starts to, impact some of the decisions that they do. So appreciate the whole Royal Commission piece, but I'm just starting to sense a little bit of a loosening. It's not loose. Please don't misinterpret what I'm saying, but a loosening of some potential lending policies. So fingers crossed for all of us. That keeps going, and we start to get more finance available, and hence we get more activity in the marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's I think we're seeing that just in the sort of the retail residential space in itself. We talk about the banks, reducing the margin of the basis points above the RBA rate, and more people, we see around updates on auction rates and the attendance and sales really picking up. Whether that's a spring thing or not, I'm not quite sure, but definitely people are realizing they're able to get the loans that they weren't able to before because of that sort of relaxation in the lending policies there. But I think when we're talking about development, the big banks in particular have, I'd say, lost a lot of their share to private, the private lending market. And that private lending market itself is also becoming a lot more competitive.
Correct.
There's a lot more money out there. And so you are getting more private lenders who are becoming a little bit more flexible in their criteria and their mandates as to what they'll invest in. So I think it'll be a really, the next 6 to 12 months is going to be really quite interesting.
Well, it's economics, Cheryl. It's supply and demand, right? So, when the banks were lending out the money, then there wasn't necessarily the need to go to private monies. When the banks shut up shop, then all of a sudden people have come across. Now there's a whole lot of high net worth individuals, families with some money, whatever it might be. They're recognising that there's an opportunity to gain, 12, 15% return versus putting it in a term deposit. I mean, why would you? I mean, point something percent for a term deposit. So, again, it's supply and demand, and because there's more people in that private space, and then they're now having to compete to lend out the money, which is great for people who are wanting the money to go and do their projects. So, things are. And things change all the time, right? So, everything goes in cycles. Markets go in cycles. Money markets go in cycles. Property markets go in cycles. Yeah. It all goes in cycles, and you just got to adapt at the particular time, make the most of the opportunities, and keep rolling forward. This whole game of property development, I can tell you firsthand, is a game of building resilience. And because it is, it's high risk, high reward. There's no two ways about it, and it's not for the faint of heart. And you've just got to keep charging on, and keep getting up every day with a new outlook, a new positive mindset, and just get on with it and solve the things that are in front of you.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I say to myself anyway. Always... So it seems to be it seems to be working, but because again, you just don't. There's things that happen that are out of our control. Monetary policy is out of our control, so why worry about it? Just go, okay, well, let's now come down. How do we make the best of that situation, right? And that applies for everything. Beyond money, it applies to everything. Just rationalize to yourself: is this within my control or outside? If it's outside of your control, what can you do? You can sit there and whinge and whine and carry on, but it's not going to change anything. So it's rationalise it out of your control and get on with it, and come up with a plan that's going to maximise whatever the opportunity is that's available.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a great attitude to have, Tony. Like you said, development has its ups and downs.
Of course it does,
and it's always interesting in the challenges that it presents itself. But it's all about, successful property development is about problem solving.
Problem solving.
At the end of the day, it's problem solving, and not focusing on the challenges that are in front of us, but just working through and going, I don't have time to dwell and sort of mope about and go, why has the world done this to me? And why have I been presented with this challenge? It's just going, I was listening to Mel Robbins, and she's the lady that's famous for
5 second rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
5 second rule.
Go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. I try that with my children, but they don't seem to move. So I'm like, I need a more effective countdown. But that's right. It's like not giving yourself enough time to dwell on the negatives or the things that are holding us back.
Correct.
And just doing that countdown in every situation.
Correct.
And to be able to keep powering forward.
Yeah, it applies beyond property, right? It applies to our whole lives. And, there's that momentary window, and it's a split-second, microsecond window where if you let your brain do the talking, it'll tell you to sit back down and be comfy and turn Netflix back on. So, it's about it's about leaning into those things and getting out after what you want, and let's loop back to the whole topic of tonight. It's around money and how do we get started. Well, it's about creating a resourceful mindset that says that door's closed on me, I'm just going to keep going until I find the door that opens. And we've given you guys and girls a whole range of strategies that you can adopt in trying to find the door that's going to open for you, but it's just about keep on going, and remember that the money is out there for you. You just haven't found it yet.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm reading Richard Branson's Like a Virgin. The book, not the Madonna song, but Richard Branson's book. And I don't have it with me here, but I'll take a photo of it. But it's great. It talks about his challenges. Oh, well, not so much his challenges. Yes, there's challenges, but his mindset around entrepreneurship and business and starting businesses. You know, he talked about how he wanted to start his own airlines, you know, Virgin Atlantic, and had no experience in whatsoever, direct experience in running an airline. And his, you know, he had a mentor that basically said, you just have to knock on everyone's door for whoever that will listen and make a fool of yourself. But you know what? You'll get so good at it, and people will believe in what it is that you're doing. Because you'll have so much of that practice and understanding your investor and your customer, and talk to everyone. So I really sort of, you know, that applies to so many facets. I said, from whether it's a property element there, or a business, or whichever,
or life.
Anything. It really, yes,
or
just putting yourself out there.
And it's not easy, right? So if it was easy, everyone would be going to do it. So it's not easy, and but you've got to ask yourself, this goal that you've got in front of you, is it worth chasing? Is it worth pursuing? Is it worth chasing down? And if it's worth chasing down, well, guess what? You've got to do this thing that in front of you that's scary, that you might look foolish, that you're probably going to be told no, and you're probably going to be told no again and again and again. But you've got to do it, and you've got to do it because you know that by knocking on those doors, working your way through the rejection to get to the yes is taking you one step closer to where you want to get to. So what choice do you have?
Absolutely.
The other choice is you walk away from your goal, and at which point, you know, I say this often, I would argue that then your goal was never that important to you in the first place. So if your goal's important, Tony Robbins talks about you don't get your goals, you get your musts. And if you must do this, if you must change your circumstances on the back of property development, then securing money is just one of those challenges, opportunities that you're going to encounter along the journey, and you've just got to come up with a solution for that. So we've given the guys and girls plenty of things here tonight. Speaking of Tony Robbins, I'm down your neck of the woods this week, Cheryl, on Thursday morning, coming down. Thursday evening, I'll be walking on some fire somewhere, so looking forward to that. So
exciting.
So you know that we know the chief fire warden, right? So Tony Gallagher, and I was having a chat to him when we did the psychology weekend, a month or so ago, and he was telling me about it's quite scientific in getting the wood, a specific wood, and they burn it down to a particular temperature. And I said, what is the optimum temperature, just as a matter of interest? It's 1500 degrees. So anyway, so that'll be me on Thursday night, walking on 1500 degree colds, leaning into one of my fears.
Fantastic. Well, better start sort of warming up the feet, and that will be good. Can you take photos when you're there?
Geez, I hope
Are
so.
you allowed to take photos?
I hope I can do a Facebook Live, Cheryl. I don't know if I can.
That would be amazing.
Hey?
That would be amazing, though. That would be absolutely amazing. I know a few people that are attending that. It'll be
Oh, it's going to be awesome. I'm pumped. So
wonderful.
so we're down in Sydney from Thursday through to Sunday night. So it's going to be awesome.
So how many days is the event?
4.
So we are at. Oh wow!
4 full days.
Fabulous.
Yeah. So fire walking is on the first night, and then there's a whole lot of other stuff that we'll get to do. A whole lot of stuff around mindset and leaning into your fears and limiting beliefs, self-doubt, lack of confidence, all these wonderful things that people are encountering. So I can come back next week and share with you my findings, my experience, my changes from spending 4 amazing days with a great man, Tony Robbins. The other Tony, I call him.
The other Tony.
That's how I refer to him. The other Tony, correct.
The other Tony. Wonderful.
I'm looking
forward to that. No. I just, you're the first Tony in my life.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl.
Oh, good. Well, it looks like.
Any other questions or comments before we sign off? Anything else? No,
there's none today. Everyone's a bit quiet.
Well, they've got the answers.
Just sort of all snuggled up.
They've got the answers. They're all clear. Perhaps they're enjoying the rain. I hope that it keeps raining for everyone. I just wanted to stop raining momentarily for about half an hour or so on Thursday evening so I can walk on some fire. But other than that, it can then rain in around all of it. So,
Fabulous. Well, I can't wait to see your sort of updates and on that event, which will be, I'm sure, will be fantastic.
Yeah,
Enjoy. Have a great trip into Sydney.
Thank you. I will.
I don't know if you'll have any time for a catch up, but if we do, just send me a little message and we'll see what we can organize.
Let's walk on some fire together Thursday night. You're not doing anything Thursday night. Let's just walk on some hot coals. Let's walk on some hot coals together.
Yeah, let's just do that. I'll have a look at it. I'll see if I'm available on Thursday night for some hot coal walking.
Sounds exciting. Very good. All right. Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate it.
Everyone.
We'll talk soon. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Ciao. Bye. Good night.